What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Hoops Betting Hour. I am your host, the big man on campus. We are here live on a Saturday, another weekend, another dollar. We get after it here as we get closer and closer to the NBA Finals. Another 2 games for you on the NBA playoff card tonight. We'll see if we can't figure out where some series are going. Series are going here in the East and in the West. We are joined, as always, on his. I don't know if it's as always, but he's usually here on a Saturday. It's Skee Profit. Skee, how you doing? Good to see you, buddy.
I'm doing well. It's not always Saturday, but it's been a few Saturdays. For the most part, I think it is.
I feel like you've been here for a few of them, but welcome back. Good to see you. Skee, one of the great NBA handicappers out there doing his thing out there in the gambling world. So make sure you go check him out. But we got a lot to do today. We'll get into a couple of games. We'll recap what we saw last night. As always, if you enjoy the show, we're here every day at noon breaking it down. If you like what we're doing, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. A lot of people check us out on the replay. For you folks, make sure you do those things. And if you're here live, make sure you say hello in the chat box. Skee, it's bright and early on the West Coast. How's everything going out in Vegas? What's been going on out there?
Well, I was out. I was out last night. It's a lot of people out here, and everything just kind of full. Even there was a couple places that weren't full capacity, but they're full capacity now. So Vegas trying to make a comeback, or are making a comeback.
Yeah. Seems like around the country that seems like the goal right now. People trying to make the comeback. I saw in Jersey at the shore, everybody's out. Even where I'm at now, people are out. So people are ready to live again. Let's get into what we saw last night around here. People were excited after the Sixers got it done. They beat the Hawks 127-111. Another big night for Joel Embiid. Didn't get into the 30s or push 40, but he did have 27. He did have 9 boards. And he did have 8 assists. You look at basically through 3 games, he's pretty much averaging like 35 points a game, which is pretty incredible. Pretty nice mix of scoring last night for the Sixers. Harris at 22, Simmons at 18. How about this? Furkan Korkmaz at 14. And, this is the continued kind of annoyance I have with props, man. I continue to lose props because of games becoming blowouts. I just somehow get the guy that just doesn't play the minutes. I got to tell you, Skee, I'm pretty much done with props in the playoffs. I'm sick and tired of blowouts, and it seems to be the only way you lose props nowadays. Tired of it.
Yeah, props a little different in the playoffs than regular season, and I agree. Blowouts where they always go to die. That Sixers series, it just seems like Atlanta cannot defend Sixers. They shot almost 60% for the game last night, and I don't think they've shot under 50% in any of the 3 games. And the Sixers have held the Hawks to under 50% twice. So it seems like Sixers kind of unstoppable on offense, and they're showing why they're a top defensive team in the league. And big man, I wanted to ask you. You asked me about Vegas. Do you follow hockey at all?
I do, a little bit.
What do you think about the Vegas Knights? I mean, a lot of people counted them out in that previous series. Do you think that they could still make some noise going forward?
Well, I mean, I'm not a guy that would be able to answer that question. But look, they have taken the league by storm. It seems like, and they beat. How about that? Didn't they beat the Avalanche the other night? That's pretty incredible.
I'm not big on hockey, but I'm kind of becoming a fan. The city out here just loves the Knights.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not a lot of pro sports. Obviously, you have football now, but 2 new teams. They've been good really since their inception. So yeah, it's exciting. I mean, good for them. I mean, I know the Avalanche are regarded as a top team, and they kind of took control of that series, scored a ton of goals, and now look, now they got to play the Canadiens, who I think are also kind of a surprise team. So, not surprising in the scheme of the history of the league, but. They've been pretty good this year. So, yeah, exciting times out there in Vegas, and good to have it because with football not going on, they don't have a basketball team, don't have a baseball team, so it kind of fills the void. I do want to say one thing about the Hawks. You mentioned, I think, an astute point about them just struggling to defend. They can't guard Joel Embiid, which has been pretty clear. But I'll tell you one thing they're missing, and that's DeAndre Hunter. Hunter has really been a miss for them, not having him. Solomon Hill's just not a guy you want on the court. I mean, he's kind of useless at this point. Only played 14 minutes last night, only had 1 point. Hunter not only gives you 10 to 15 points offensively, but he gives you a very good defender. He's probably their best defender, frankly. Not having him, I think, has really hurt. We'll see if they can't tie it up. Again, it was only one game last night. We'll see if the Hawks can even this series up. Probably going to have to. In fact, if they don't, the series is over. It's pretty much that simple. So for me, I do have the Hawks in the series. I'm banking on them figuring out how to shoot the basketball again. But they need to get more out of, Capella. Need to get more out of some of the bench. So, we'll see if they can't do that coming up here in Game 4. What is it, tomorrow, I believe? The other game last night, pretty much a game that I think, if you followed this show, if you followed what we're doing, I think it was pretty clear what was going to go on last night. The fact that these Suns were a dog was, as I tweeted, robbery. The fact that you're going to continue to throw these numbers out there with them, particularly to last night and then tomorrow or the next game they have, these are low numbers. Skee, the Denver Nuggets just aren't as good as the Suns. It's pretty clear. They don't have the guards to run with that group. Defensively, they just can't guard them. Offensively, they don't have enough weapons. And outside of Nikola Jokic, there's just not a ton. To have to depend on a Monte Morris or Michael Porter's clearly injured. This team is completely done. This series is over as of tomorrow.
Well, I think for sure the Nuggets are not as healthy, and I think that's the main thing here. Because, like you said, Porter Jr., even though they're kind of talking like his back is not bothering him too much, I think you can kind of clearly tell that it is. Mm-hmm. Will Barton just now coming back after missing long parts of the season, and Jamal Murray. So if they had all those guys healthy, I think Suns would have a hard time stopping the Nuggets as well. So that bubble, it's kind of showing up. Everybody's looking like they're going to, Nuggets down 3-0. So it's only a matter of time before everybody who was like the Final Four in the bubble is gone. So it's catching up to people.
Yeah, and not only do you not have, a healthy Porter, you don't have Jamal Murray. You moved on from Grant, Harris, and Plumlee, which I continue to talk about.
Gordon? What about Gordon offensively? What are these shots that he's taking? Like, is Mike Malone drawing these things up? What is going on?
I saw a tweet. He looks like Joakim Noah out there, and it's not far off. Look, Paul Millsap. He's not giving you what he gave you last year either. He's caught up with as far as Father Time. It's just they're just not good enough. I already bet the Suns in Game 4. I think they take the sweep here. The Denver Nuggets just look the fact that they beat Portland. Portland should be ashamed of themselves. Seriously, the talent that Portland has. Just to be honest, outside of Jokic, it's high on Portland's. They have just a talent advantage. The fact that they lost has been pathetic.
That shows you that if you can't play defense, you're not going to be successful because they clearly, just like the Suns have a backcourt advantage, the Portland had a backcourt advantage too, and they just couldn't get it done.
Exactly. So as I said, I'm already on the Suns. I'd advise to play them as well in Game 4. Julian says Gordon looks lost out there. He really does.
He's just jacking threes. Like, when have you ever been this three-point shooter?
Yeah, I have no idea. No idea. Trapos Book says the Porter points prop has been the cat's pajamas. Never heard that quote, but yes, it's been very profitable if you've bet it. Shout out to our guest on Thursday? Kate. She's recommended that. So good stuff if you're finding Michael Porter props under. All right, Skee, let's get into today's action. We've got 2 games, one in the East, one in the West. These 2 series have been kind of thorns in my side, frankly. I went 0-2 the other night with these 2 games. So let's see if we can't figure them out today. First, matter of fact, we only have 1 game today?
Only one. Only Jazz Clippers.
Why did I think there were 2 games today?
Now we got to wait till tomorrow.
What the hell? Well, I'm totally confused. I literally thought they were both today. No wonder. Okay, we have 1 game today. That goes to show you don't look at times because they don't. I just assume. Why are there 3? Why is that going on? Why are there 3 days off for some of these series? I don't understand this playoff stuff. All right. Okay. One game today.
Yeah, it's
Utah.
like all over the place, right? As far as like, I feel like it used to be pretty consistent. Like when you go back home,
Yeah.
then you get like an extra day off. But other than
Yep.
that, like this year is just like they do whatever they want.
Okay, explain this to me. Okay. The Sixers and Hawks play Friday night. Game 4 in Atlanta. They're no traveling. They don't play again until Monday. Can anyone explain this to me? Like
I wish the Lakers could have got some rest like that.
yeah. I mean, like it's not like we have anything else really going on. Put the Jazz or put Brooklyn and Milwaukee on today at 3:40, and put Utah Clippers on at 8:40. What are we doing here? Why are there 3 days off between these games? I'd understand if there were traveling going on, but there's not.
Maybe they're just
What is
desperate
going
to
on
have a
with the
game
slate?
on every day. I don't know.
Stupid, idiotic. All right, what we'll do this game, and then I'll get to Belgium, Russia a little bit later in Euros, and maybe we'll just chat about what else we have going on in Euros tomorrow. I don't know. Jazz Clippers. Clippers laying 5, total 225.5. Why are the Clippers laying 5 points? Can you explain that to me here?
I mean, that's kind of like the how it goes now, right? When you're down 0-2 going back home,
Yeah. Oh, well,
they juice it up, and then they juice the first half and first quarter up even more.
well, here's the truth of the matter. Do you find it obviously pretty? It's pretty rough that the Clippers are down 0-2 and Mike Conley hasn't played yet. Not ideal.
Yes,
I don't
I
think a
agree.
change of venue is going to change much here.
Well, I mean, not only Mike Conley, but now Donovan Mitchell a little bit banged up. How healthy do you think Donovan Mitchell is? I know he hurt his ankle a little bit, so
I think he's fine. I think he's totally fine. I think the Clippers are just and look. I kind of mentioned this when we started looking at the series. I don't know if the Clippers don't seemingly have answers for the star player on every team. Okay, defensively they're not good. Okay, that's seemingly kind of come and gone. Tyronn Lue's back to the old. We're gonna play Patrick Beverly. We're gonna play Zubac. We're just gonna go back to what didn't work in the Maverick series. You haven't gotten a ton out of Morris. You're not playing Kennard and Mann, which is a weird decision. I just look at it and say to myself, it doesn't seem like in 2 games, and really in general, can the Clippers stop the opposing player for the opposite team. I don't think they can guard Gobert either, to be real honest with you. I don't ever trust Paul George. So at the end of the day, we're really kind of saying to ourselves, do we trust Kawhi Leonard? Of course we do. But we don't trust anyone else in the Clippers. I look at the Jazz, even without Conley, and we may get Conley back today or any point. I really like the ancillary pieces that the Jazz have, whether it's Clarkson, whether it's Gobert, whether it's Joe Ingles, whether it's whoever. But Donovan Mitchell is is he the best player in the court?
he's playing like it for sure.
Yeah, right.
And like you said, the Clippers supposed to be this big defensive team. Looks like they're not stopping anybody.
No. And look, do I think they win today? Probably. I think they have a shot to win, but Bojan Bogdanovic, we forgot him. I mean, to just disrespect the Jazz like this, I think this is continued disrespect by the books and thinking that the Jazz just still aren't as good and they're just going to fall down up 0-2. Maybe you get a strong start from the Clippers, but we saw this last night. The Nuggets were a favorite for some reason. Didn't matter. I'm going to take.
I mean,
the
that's a
Jazz
long
here.
term. That's a long term angle as far as that first half thing, and bookmakers have kind of caught on now. I know, like before this playoffs, it was like 90-40 or something like that. Teams coming back home down 0-2, and that's why they juice it up like that. But so far this year, we've seen Miami in that role not cover. We've seen the Nuggets not cover, and we'll see what happens today.
If we're going to have to depend, if you're a Clipper fan, on Reggie Jackson being the second option, I'm okay with that. I'm
Hey,
taking
I'm
the
always here
Jazz.
for the Paul George slander.
Yeah.
I love it.
How could you not be? I mean, he folds in the play. I mean, Skee, he's had 10 games in the playoffs in his career where he shot 25% or worse. Think about
Yeah.
that.
And he names himself Playoff P, right?
Crazy.
Yeah, I have
Playoff
no
P.
faith in Paul George for sure. He's a guy that, I mean, I consistently talk down on him. So I'm with you 100%. I would think that I'm not really willing to lay these amount of points with the Clippers if I'm looking to play them at all. I mean, I heard Ty Lue said that they can't continue to build these dig these holes to start the game. Then they have to spend all their energy to come back. And so at home, he also said they have to take the challenge to defend, et cetera, et cetera. And he said that he liked the looks that they got. They just didn't make them. So coming back home, I think that would get great effort for the Clippers to start the game. As far as laying that many points for the entire game, I wouldn't be so hot on that. I probably would lean more towards the Jazz.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of those, you give me 5 with the team up 2-0, and we're just going to kind of assume that the Clippers come back and win this by 10, but I don't see it. I think the Jazz are really good. The Jazz have done a really good job this year against the Clippers. I think they've won 4 or 5, I think, overall in this series this year playing the Clippers. I just,
Clippers miss Ibaka too.
Yeah,
Like they have
he's
to
out,
throw
yeah.
Zubac and DeMarcus Cousins. Like those aren't great defenders. Jazz can just pick on those guys whenever they want. Same way Luka was picking on Zubac, etc.
I would love to see maybe we get Conley back. We don't know if we'll get him back. According to reports in the Utah Jazz, he's questionable for Game 3. He does have a mild hamstring strain. Hamstrings are fickle injuries, but with some care and with some training, we'll see what he can't do to get back in there. I mean, if you can get anything out of him, maybe 15 minutes from Conley might be the difference here.
You need something with Donovan Mitchell banged up, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to get him back. Obviously, anytime you can get him in there, you obviously want it. I think he can provide you some sort of spark, even at maybe 70 or 80%. I'm going to go with the Jazz here. I'm going to take the 5 and just kind of roll with it. Skee, let me ask you, props have obviously been tough. And look, if this is somehow a blowout, we won't see Donovan Mitchell. Do you just kind of go to his point prop and just auto bet it at this point? It doesn't seem like the Clippers can stop either Luka Doncic or Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell, if you tell me he's healthy, then I'm in. I think I kind of am looking at his health for the total in this game and for player props. I don't know how healthy he is, so it'll kind of be a wait and see approach for me. As far as the Clippers, who's been the most consistent? I probably would look towards Reggie Jackson if I'm picking somebody to score, or Kawhi Leonard. He seems to show up in games like this, even though he doesn't show up every single game. But I think he shows up today. So Reggie Jackson or Kawhi, as far as points go. I think I like the total a little bit more in this game than props. I'll let you have the props before I talk about the total.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm kind of I'm kind of out on props. I like the Jazz, but I think when you talk totals, you got to lean over. I mean, you'd have to expect the Clippers. You mentioned Lou talked about them just not making the shots that they were getting. You got to figure they'll go in. It doesn't seem like the Jazz have had any trouble scoring really since Mitchell came back. So kind of lean over.
The only thing that kind of threw him off was Clippers played a little bit of zone, but eventually Jazz figured that out. And long term, that zone is not going to work. It's just kind of cool to bring it out and throw your opponent off for a second or however the case may be. So how I looked at this game, I don't know if I talked about it with you, big man. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But the first game, I looked at that and I saw that both teams shot really poor, 41.5% from the field. They shot 1,000 3-pointers. They didn't shoot the greatest percent from 3. They only had 6 fast break points. Game still reached 221. So it was either they're shooting threes or they're getting to the free throw line because they also shot 50 free throws in that first game. And so that told me that if we can get even a little bit of pace, a little bit more fast break points, it's going to go well over. And that's exactly what we saw. Even with the first game was a rusty start, but we saw the second one go well over. It hit 228, and the fast break points increased from 6 to 24. They shot a little bit less free throws. They shot a lot better from 3. And you hear Ty Lue saying that they had shots that were open and they just didn't go down. So I don't see why the scoring stops. I mean, you've had 2 60-point quarters, I think, in every game. And I see nothing but points here. I'm not sure what the first half number is, but I'll check. But I'll lean points. I'll check the first half over.
We talked about, if you remember, I think you were on here, first half total is going to be 109.5.
For the Clipper game?
Yep.
Oh, I'm pretty interested in that. First half over sounds pretty good. I mean, the Nuggets game last night, you had the full game total at 223.5. You had the first half at 109.5. And you see the first half go over, second half dies out. I can maybe see something like that.
Yeah, I mean, first half over seems a little low, frankly. For as good as both these offenses are, for as efficient as both these offenses are, I'll tell you what, even without Conley, I mean, Ingles has played well. You look at the other night, 33 minutes, he had 19 points. Definitely likes that role. They're not a deep rotation, but look, I'm going to keep saying it. If you can get the four, whether in Bogdanovich, Gobert, Mitchell, Ingles, and Clarkson, so five, and then Royce O'Neal gives you 6 to 10 points. I mean, you're going to score 115 plus every game. That's how good they are. By the way, report from Eric Walden covers the Jazz for the Salt Lake City Tribune. On a follow-up about his physical condition, Donovan Mitchell, I got hit and it hurt, but I'm fine now. I walked in here. I could sprint if you wanted me to. Shit happens. So I think he's good to go with the care that these teams give the players. I'm going to go ahead and guess he's just going to be fine for this one. But yeah, I like your thoughts on maybe a first half over and maybe even a full game over. We talked about in that Grizzlies series for the Jazz, once Mitchell came back, the offense seemed to speed up. Quinn Snyder wants to go faster, and they seem to be doing that. So I like that. I like that call maybe in the first.
I'm looking more at it, big man. I mean, unless you think that the Clippers come out and can magically play some defense, I think that they'll come out and for sure score better. But first half points per game on the season, I see both teams combining for 116.
Yep,
I look at the last three games, they combined for 123.7. So I see value on that first half number.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's a solid play. I'll definitely have my eye on it for sure. So there you go. Skee, do you have a best bet for this? Do you have something you're leading on here? What are you thinking? It's not till 840, I know.
I haven't made a bet yet. I've been really good on totals. I've hit 15 of 19 playoff totals so far. And that's the one that catches my eye the most right now. I mean, I was leaning over some way, shape, or form, and first half seems like a great number.
I'm going to take the Jazz. I don't believe in the Clippers at this point. I just don't. I think the auxiliary pieces for the Jazz are really good. If we can get something out of Conley, that'd be cool, but I don't think it's mandatory. It could be square. I think it is square to say, oh, look at the 5. But I thought it was square last night to take the Suns, and it worked out. So I'm going to rock and take the 5 here. And I've had a good playoff, so I'll lean on it. It is what it is. All right.
Have you had more success with sides or totals?
Sides.
So we'd be good. You could do the sides and I do the totals.
I'd love to know what I haven't kept track, but I mean sides I've killed it in. I mean the things that I've lost on are props. They've been my bugaboo here. Denmark Finland 0-0 24 minutes in group B. We've got another game later today. Russia and Belgium in Euros. I had a winner yesterday with the Italy team total over, an easy winner there. You got Belgium as a small, basically 110 favorite here, which is interesting to me. Belgium is the number 1 team in the world. They're a team that is very good going forward. The problem is they're not going to have Kevin De Bruyne, who is arguably the best midfield player in the world. But they have such, so many good players just barreling down on you, including Lukaku. Russia is the host in this game. This game's in St. Petersburg, and Russia's a team that, look, if you know anything about Russian soccer, they get a lot of calls. If you go back and look at Euros 4 years ago, it was that way. There seemed to be a lot of conspiracy theories about Russia and Putin and some of the calls that were being made. But they have some good players. I mean, Artem Zhuba going forward, very good striker. I'm willing to believe Russia can add to the score sheet. I don't think Russia's very good defensively. I think Belgium's a little faulty at the back. And that was one of the reasons I took the over 2.5 here. The fact that I was getting plus money was very attractive to me here at plus 110. It's ticked down a little bit, but there are goal scorers all over the place for both these sides, particularly with Belgium, with Carrasco, and with, like I said, with Romelu Lukaku. I mean, there's a guy that just cannot be moved. When you get inside the box, you got Dries Mertens, you got Hazard, you've got just so many great players here. So even without De Bruyne, I'm willing to believe they can get 2 or 3 here. I think Russia could probably add to the sheet and get 1 probably. It seems at worst 2-1. I am a little surprised that it's only 110. It seems a little, hey, bet me here. Russia's tough. Maybe this is 2-2. I'm going to lean on goals here. over 2.5. Skee, have you been following this tournament? You on it in any way?
Negative. I have absolutely zero knowledge, so I'm not even going to act. When the World Cup comes around, that's when I kind of pay attention a little bit. But I'll
Yeah.
let you have it, big man. I know you do well in soccer.
Yeah, I like this tournament. I think it's the best in the world, really, outside of March Madness. I don't think, even the World Cup. I prefer European soccer. It's what I follow more. But got some games tomorrow, real quick, 9 a.m. It's before the show starts. England, Croatia. I think there's some value in grabbing maybe Croatia in a +1 goal type of scenario. I think England's a little overvalued to me. Croatia's really solid, very good in the midfield, always a really tough defense to break down. Luka Modric is still, as good as it gets. They've still got a ton of talent on that Croatian side. Again, always tough to break down. So I'm going to look towards something like that. Maybe I'll have something out later. Also, Austria and North Macedonia. Don't sleep on Macedonia. Another tough side to break down. That game screams low scoring to me. But I'm going to kind of highlight the game later in the day to keep an eye on. So I'm going to just take on one game today. By the way, Finland, Denmark. Denmark seems to be on the front foot. They've missed a lot of opportunities. So maybe a shot with them live in this game might be worth a look. There's still a very high price live to win, -280. So that goes to show you what the books think here. All right, let's wrap this thing up, Skee. Obviously only one game today, so we don't have to go a ton into things. Any thoughts in the WNBA? Any games there today or Europe?
There are a couple games, but I didn't get too into it. It's my bad today. It was Friday. I haven't been out in a long time. I went out last night, and I'm late to the party on WNBA.
Nothing wrong with that. You have to take some time for yourself occasionally, as they say. All right, we're out of here. Check out Skee Profit on Twitter at Skee Profit. Skee Profit is a guy that, and I'm going to tell you right now, I've always said this about Skee Profit. He followed the blueprint on how to get known in this business. You would agree with that, right, Skee? You followed the blueprint. You did a great job, and now you're regarded as a very high-level basketball handicapper. People trust your opinion. You're on all sorts of content. I get people all the time. Hey, I had a kid that reached out to me. Hey, how do I get in the business? Well, it's very tough to do it now, but you were a definition of that, Skee Profit.
Sometimes, thank you, big man, for the kind words, but sometimes you just got to take a chance on stuff and take a bet on yourself. So glad it worked out.
Sometimes people worry too much about dreaming and never get to actually fulfilling those dreams. And they wait their whole life and they say, damn, I wish I would have did that.
And, I worked a couple other jobs and I wasn't really happy doing it. And, I talked to a couple of my people I trust or family members or et cetera, and they kind of didn't understand what I was trying to do with handicapper or sports stuff. Like they were just totally against it, just saying it's not a good idea. And I just kind of ran with myself, betting on myself. So,
there are people that always say to me, and I see it on the internet, big man, how does he get that? How does he do this? How does he do that? Life's all about connections, baby. You know who you know. And if you know the right people, you do your thing, always. Skee's done that. Shout out to him. Also, Razor Sharp Pick says, Skee, look at that house he has. That piano is on point.
I know Razor loves it over here.
Yeah, I love that background. It's the best. That fire. Listen, the best part of that house is the fireplace, man. My father has a fireplace like that. It's that like handmade fireplace with the stone. It's electric.
I've only had one fireplace ever, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, fireplaces are dope, man. Definitely nice to have a little fire when it's cold outside. All right. Also, before we go, I'm doing something. It's called The Sit Down. If you enjoy the mob, you enjoy mob history, you enjoy hits and dissolving bodies in acid and chopping people up and all sorts of crazy mafia stuff, check out my podcast, The Sit Down. It's on anywhere you get your podcast. Follow us on this Twitter at The Sit Down 7. I'm close to 5,000 followers. That is in less than 3 months. I have really elevated this show. We continue to barrel forward. I've got a lot of plans for this. Hopefully, they all work out. But if you enjoy that kind of stuff, we've done some great episodes. John Gotti, Tommy Patera, Whitey Bulger, Vincent Gigante, all sorts of great ones. We got Al Capone coming up. We got some great shows down the road. We're going to basically talk about how the mob was instrumental in killing John Kennedy. Yes, that JFK. How they also tried to kill Fidel Castro. The mob is responsible for way more than you actually think. So make sure in the coming weeks you check out that. Next week, we got a guy called Anthony Casso. He is the most violent individual in the history of the mob, in my opinion. He would kill anybody. Women, it didn't matter. If you got in his way, he would kill you. It's that simple. He also is one of the only people that I have ever encountered that was an informant and spent life in prison. That's how dangerous Anthony Casso was. So make sure you check that out going forward. Skee.
Can I ask you two quick questions before we get out of here?
Yes, you can, for sure.
It's Fidel Castro. That was recent, right?
Fidel Castro, yes. Fidel Castro was the leader of the Communist Party in Cuba. He basically took over Cuba in the 60s. And at the time when he took Cuba over, the mafia was entrenching into Cuba. They were creating really kind of a paradise, basically Las Vegas, but in Cuba. Meyer Lansky was down there, a Jewish gangster. And basically the American mafia was entrenching on Cuba. Fidel came in, kind of created a revolutionary force down there, and basically took the mob out. The CIA didn't want to do business with Castro. They didn't want that going on. And if you know anything about the bad pigs and all that kind of stuff, they basically went to the mob after they made a connection with the mob during World War II to eliminate different Italian leaders and folks like that, and basically went to the mob and said, hey, look, we need, the CIA wants Castro dead. And they went to a guy called Sam Giancana, and they tried to put it in motion. But yes, Castro recently died. He died in 2016, and the Cuban country is now moving towards liberation, as they say.
Got you. And lastly, I'm not a big movie person. Like, to put it in context, like I literally just saw Scarface like last weekend.
One of the great movies out there.
Is there a recommendation for like a mob movie that you can give me, something that you like?
Yeah, I'll give you a few. Some of my favorites, Bronx Tale. I think you'd really enjoy Bronx
I've seen
Tale.
that one. That one I have seen. It's great.
Yeah, Donnie Brasco, fantastic. It's top 3 movie for me. It's a true story. It's about a guy that he's an FBI agent. He infiltrates the Bonanno crime family, and it's really about his life. It's based on real stuff. Johnny Depp plays Donnie Brasco. It's awesome. Al Pacino's in it. It's a true story, so check that out. Very good. There's also a movie on YouTube called Gotti. It's the HBO version. That's my favorite mob movie ever. It's very good. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Carlito's Way. I would highly recommend that one. Not necessarily a not mob movie per se, but Pacino is in it. He's a guy called Carlito, and it's about him getting out of prison and kind of trying to stay out of the gangster life, but he's still kind of pulled back in through like this lawyer that he has that's a nut job. So I would watch that. Very highly recommended. Obviously, you've seen Goodfellas? I would imagine.
I have not.
You have not seen Goodfellas? Holy hell. Where the hell have you been doing with your life?
See, I told you.
Gotta watch Goodfellas. I mean, Goodfellas is that kind of instrumental mob movie. So you will enjoy all of it. And most of these movies that I'm giving you are based on true stories. So they actually happened. And we've actually talked about the real Goodfellas. So if you enjoy the movie, go check out the show. We kind of broke down on what was real, who was real, how the stories kind of changed, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, good stuff, Skee. Yeah, you how'd you like Scarface? You enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. I mean, he's a boss, man.
I think you can make the case that is probably the best role he's played. I mean, obviously, he played Michael Corleone. He's played, obviously some really great roles, but that role is pretty high level. Frankly.
You know how we talk about The Wire? I mean, I don't want to keep you on the show for forever. I probably could talk to you about this.
Listen, Skee, we can fill some time here. Whatever you got, go ahead.
Well, in that Scarface movie, it just kind of seemed like he was one way. Like in the beginning, he was just like a hustler, just really trying to get his money. And then once he started getting more money and started doing drugs, then he kind of just changed as a person a little bit.
Yeah, I think he becomes like what you become, when you get into that life, And I tweeted it out last night. There's a great scene in Sopranos when Tony's talking to a psychiatrist, and she asks him about like his life and his family's life, and Tony's got his nephew involved in the life, and his nephew gets shot, and he survives, but he gets shot, and they talk about how Tony talks about how they're soldiers and that they decide to take an oath and they have to do certain things, and that they don't go to hell because soldiers kill other soldiers, and that it's okay that what they do because they're not ever involving anyone that's not in the life, and they just kind of become different people. And Tony Montana was the same way. I mean, you got to remember when he came to America from Cuba, which we just talked about, Tony saw all these guys that come to America and they're making all this money, and he kind of just figures that if he makes the right decisions and makes the right connections, as we just talked about, connections are king, he can become, the American dream, basically. And in Miami at the time, in the 70s and 80s, cocaine was the business. Okay, that's how you got rich. Everybody out there that was doing shit, it's kind of like YouTube nowadays. YouTube back then was cocaine, and you got into that life through cocaine. And Tony realized that. And, he goes and makes those connections, but by the end of it, he was getting high on his own supply, as they say.
Exactly.
Which is one of the commandments that you cannot do. He started getting, if you remember, his sister, he had some weird incestual affinity with his sister.
I never felt like that. I just felt like he was being protective.
No. I think if you look deeper into it, he had a thing for his sister. I think it was pretty clear, in my opinion. He might be right, and it could have been territorial. But when he did what he did at the end and killing his best friend because of it,
I think he was just like super high. Like you
yeah,
could tell
that's true.
he always flipped out whenever anybody messed with her. And I knew even before like he shot, I'm like, dude, he's about to flip out right now when he sees him in there. And sure enough, he did.
I mean, Manny didn't do a great job of basically keeping it secret. I mean,
Right.
I would have just came out and said, look, Tony, I'm your best friend. She's a great woman. I'm a good, you know me, and, but I will say the last 5 minutes of that movie, in the house are probably the best. I mean, you can make a case they're the best 5 minutes of any movie ever. I mean,
Yeah.
and how like the two best scenes in that movie are, and this is a really small scene, but if you know the movie, you'll remember it. Do you remember when he kills Frank, that car guy,
Yep.
the car dealer guy? And he goes back to Frank's house, and his wife is basically he steals his wife basically after all that, and he walks out of the house into like the pool area overlooking like the bay there, and he's like smoking a cigarette, and he's got blood all over him, and it's like kind of dusk almost. And he's smoking the cigarette, and he looks up and sees the blimp that says
Yeah.
"The world is yours."
I remember that.
Bro, that scene is the best scene in any movie I've ever seen. Like, just there's no talking, but it's just that subtle with the music, and he sees the blimp, and that's when he envisions that the world is his. And then at the end of the movie, when his end comes, he goes into the pool at the bottom of the steps, and they pan up to that "world is yours" banner again.
I didn't notice that at the end.
And the world being his was true, but at the end, you either end up dead or in jail, and that was his end.
He was a very, this is what kind of stood out to me. He was very likable, I would say, like in the first half of the movie. I think in the second half, he was less likable just because, I don't know. He just seemed like he was a mean guy at that point. Like,
well, no, I think you just become like desensitized to what you're doing. Like just becomes part of it. Like, have you ever seen Breaking Bad?
like a little bit. I didn't finish it.
You got to watch that movie because that's or that show. That's kind of an interesting kind
It's
of
worth
look into.
finishing.
Like, yeah, it's a normal guy that is a normal person, and he starts selling methamphetamine to help his family. He has a cancer diagnosis, and as the show goes, he becomes more and more disturbing and a bigger lunatic, and by the end of it, he is a full on, crime boss basically, and that's just how it goes. It's almost like being a drug addict. You maybe start with drinking alcohol, and occasionally you'll do a little coke, and then before you know it, you're shooting something into your arm.
It's like that in all the shows. You're right. There's another show that's going on right now that what is it called? Snowfall. And
Oh
in the
yeah, it's a great
beginning,
show.
it
Yeah.
was kind of I'm still not caught up, so don't ruin it
That's
for
a
me. But
I won't. That's a prime example of that. But you know, Ski, in doing this show that I'm doing, right? I've done 10 episodes so far. Every single person that we've done, it's the same story. You start out small. Some of these guys are from good families. You know, there's a guy we just did, Carmen Persco. He was the boss of the Colombo crime family for 30 years. His father was a court reporter. He had a good job. He was a middle class, kid. But he starts out, hanging out with a gang. He kills somebody, and he just gets worse and worse as it goes on. And that's how criminals, and a lot of it's from a faulty justice system too, where they get off early in their life and they just become a better criminal. But yeah, Tony Montana was a money guy. He saw the money, and he knew that you had to kill people to get to that point.
you know what was respectable about him though?
He never
Even
killed the woman and children.
yeah, and that's ultimately the reason why he dies.
Yeah, it's
Only
funny.
like nobody was gonna kill him if that didn't happen. They were just so mad that the guy went and talked.
Yeah, I mean that's and that guy Sosa was like a really disturbing individual, right? But one other thing, and we'll wrap this up. In Philly, this was probably 10 years ago. There was a guy. He was probably the biggest drug dealer in the history of this city. He was called Kabani Savage. That was his name. He was a boxer. He'd become like the biggest heroin dealer in the city. He was a guy that he was big on like killing witnesses. So you were going to inform on him. He would not only kill you, but he would kill your whole family. Like this guy was a lunatic. He killed a ton of people. And there was a wiretap that the feds wiretapped him on. And he actually said in one wiretap, he goes, I'm not Scarface. And that was kind of, they referenced he would kill anybody. It didn't matter. So, yeah, I mean, that whole notion of like doing stuff like that is that's where you become like a disturbing gangster, right? But yeah, Tony was honorable in that sense that he wasn't going to ever do that. But
Last thing that kind of really gave me a good laugh, and I don't know, maybe it shouldn't have given me a laugh, but it did. The scene where he's at dinner with his friend and his wife.
yeah,
He's like he's just fed up with life and fed up with everything.
that's a great scene as well. Say hello to the bad guy.
Yeah, he's like,
You got
man,
a
I got
funny
a
bag.
I got a junkie for a wife, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's also a good scene is when he's in like the tub, and she's sitting there and she's like doing her thing, and he goes, basically all you do is drugs. You don't do anything else. Yeah,
He didn't get high on it before he got with her, did he?
no, she was kind of his. I don't know though. I mean, cocaine was so like prevalent down there that it's like everybody did it, but he did it to a point of just like too much. He
Yeah,
was
putting
doing
his
like,
falling asleep with his nose in it.
yeah, yeah, that was. I mean, that was nutty. But yeah, he was a nut. But no, the scene in the restaurant's great. You're not going to see a bad guy like this anymore. Like that's a great scene, man.
Y'all scared to tell the truth. Me, I tell it how it is.
Yeah. He's a good one. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm sure Pixwise doesn't want us talking about this kind of stuff. I apologize. we just go down these rabbit holes, and hey, look, we only had one game today, so there you go. All right, have a good night, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday. If you're gonna go out, be safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. But again, there ain't much I wouldn't do. Skee, you have a good night as well. Enjoy the games tonight. For me, I'm gonna take a shot with the Jazz here. I'm worried that it is a bit square to do so, but I just think they're better than the Clippers. I think this game's close at any rate. Let's hope for like a 114, 111 type of game or something. Skee, good stuff. Follow Skee on Twitter at Skee Profit. He'll be back next week, I'm sure. Everyone have a great night. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Hoops Betting Hour.